All right, this isn't the actual start of the show. I'm doing a sound test, since last week's fell apart. But it looks like we're good, and we'll be right back with the real show. What is up, everybody? This is Quarter Recall, a live show where we take a look back at what is going on in pop culture this week, 25 years ago. Movies, music, video games, news, comic books. What else are things?
That's it.
Jinko jeans and
yeah, we haven't had a Jinko jean themed episode yet.
We really should. Yeah, and Dragon Ball t-shirts, I think.
Oh yeah, not Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball. Fuck yeah.
Anything that they sold at Anchor Blue, I think is what we should talk about. Yeah.
Wow, I haven't thought about Anchor Blue in a long time.
I bought a shitload of Anchor Blue.
Totally, I could see you as a teen being a big Anchor Blue guy.
Yeah, I'm here with my co-host Leo, an Anchor Blue aficionado. No, you're a Hot Topic guy for sure.
Yeah, I can't deny it.
You're definitely a Hot Topic kid. You had patches on your backpack and safety pins, I'm sure.
I didn't have safety pins, but I for sure was in that direction, I will say. I never went like the full rave, like giant jeans. I never quite got to that level, but for sure, if it was between like Aeropostale or Anchor Blue or Hot Topic, I would have 100% been in the Hot Topic buying the 9 Inch Nails shirt.
Yeah. Did you have any like patches on your backpack, like a 9 Inch Nails patch or a Tool patch or anything?
Probably. I wasn't into Tool, but I'm sure I had patches. And then I also went through like an emo phase too, so that was like...
That's sick.
Pretty rough.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like...
I was a really cool teenager.
I liked a lot of music, but really like... Cause I played guitar and stuff, I was really into like what we called alternative back then, right? A lot of Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
I did like some Tool. I don't know. Now I listen to Tool, and it's funny. I hear a lot of people like wax poetically about like how great Tool was, and I listen to it now, and I'm just like, it's kind of lame.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you bring this up because last night I was listening to Garbage, the band.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck, I love Garbage. Like, they're so good. Her lyrics are fucking awesome. And I would listen to, like, their whole discography, which is not very much, which is kind of nice, you know? It's kind of nice when you just rediscover a band. You're like, oh, there's only 4 albums. I can get through this pretty quick. But, man, I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, it's fun to revisit older music.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And then other times you have a Tool moment where you're like, oh.
I think some of the things we thought were so technical and mature as children really turned out to be pretty surface level, right?
Yeah, I mean, things have just become more complicated and complex, so that's totally normal, I think.
Yeah, but I listened to Radiohead, which I loved as a teenager, and I think it's amazing. I think it all still holds up. It's all so good.
Radiohead kicks ass.
Yeah.
And Nine Inch Nails, I will argue, also still is extremely good.
Yeah, Nine Inch Nails is really good.
Yeah.
Tool, not so much.
Much better than Tool. Always. Even then, I remember being like, for some reason, which is so weird, there was always like the Tool versus Nine Inch Nails thing. And even then, I was like, nah, fuck this. Fuck Tool. And I think I was on the right side of history on that one.
What were your thoughts on Primus?
Oh, yeah. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Primus other than they seem really cool and interesting. I just never really explored.
Yeah, I also didn't have a lot of thoughts on Primus. I remember it was another band.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up then.
Well, I remember it was another band people thought was extremely technical. You know, like they were always kind of praised for having these like very technical, complex bass lines and. But yeah, I think it was a very niche group of friends that liked Primus, right? It was mostly like dirt bike kids and stuff that I noticed were into Primus. So
interesting.
But that was a big scene for me. Was
if you're a
dirt
Primus fan and you weren't on a dirt bike, let us know.
Yeah, but if you're on like a quad or some other off-road vehicle, like you're still a dirt bike kid. Yeah. You can't pretend like, no, I wasn't a dirt bike kid.
I was an ATV guy.
Yeah, I like ATVs. Okay. Yeah, fuck you, bro. Fuck you.
Don't fucking play at that.
Yeah,
Come on, you know.
Don't play with me. It's funny. The Frasier commercial is on right now, and when I was driving this week, I saw a guy with a bumper sticker that said, "I'd rather be watching Frasier," and I was like, "This guy gets it. This guy gets it."
I fucking love Frasier so much.
Frasier was so good, man.
It's the best.
And the maid girl was so cute. Like,
oh yeah, no, they're all great.
So great.
It's aged so well, I think. And it was intentional, right? Like, we don't have to get into Frasier, but by design, it's funny reading about it, but like they never talk about technology or politics or modern events ever. So obviously it's aged as far as outfits and hair and stuff, but it's totally timeless writing because it's in no way related to modern events at all. It's completely isolated from that. So it's aged so well. Even Seinfeld, which I also really like, is very much focused on like, you know, the memes of the time, or it's very much about that decade, and Frasier's just will be just as watchable in 100 years, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Seinfeld is like memes for the 90s, right? Like, because it really was like no soup for you, like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone would just say the phrase from Seinfeld, right?
Yeah. It's fucking funny though.
Yeah. Frasier was a really great show. Frasier was a great show, man.
Yeah, that's my comfort show, one of them, where I just will put it on anytime I'm feeling shitty, and just it always cheers me up. It's like a warm blanket.
Yeah, like everything I didn't love late Frasier as much. We got kind of into the romance between his brother and Daphne, what's her name, right?
And Daphne Moon, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a little peculiar, but in general, I thought the show was really good. I liked it.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. That being said,
if you want to learn more about Frasier, you can check out our Frasier podcast that we do every other week.
Yeah,
it's called through each episode.
It's called Tossed Salads and Scrambled Eggs, the podcast.
It's called I'd Rather Be Watching Frasier.
But that being said, Frasier and Tool talk aside, Leo, did you do anything fun this week?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I've been looking forward to talking to you about, actually. The first one is I played a lot of Fallout 4, which I promised you we'd revisit.
Oh, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I've thought a lot about it. Like, part of the reason I like talking to you is because it always kind of makes me think when I'm engaging with something, like, how will I tell Tony about it? Like, what are my actual thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's fun.
In some ways don't do when I'm just engaging with art. So that's been really enjoyable. But I played a lot of it. I think I played right after work, I'll just play it for like 4 hours straight every day. So clearly I'm enjoying it immensely. But it's such an interesting game, and it made me think a lot about like Bethesda in general, especially modern Bethesda. It is a fucking mess in so many ways. And I know there's like, Bethesda games are really janky, but it really is like barely functional as a video game in a way that's kind of astonishing. And especially I think it came out in 2016 or 17 or whatever, but it's been many years. So this is all the patches plus a huge amount of mods that I've installed. And all the fan-made patches that fix glitches. and it still barely works. So I keep thinking about like any poor asshole who bought Fallout 4 on day one, vanilla Fallout 4 like 1.0, must have just been an absolute nightmare.
Real shit show.
Like seriously, in a way that's almost unforgivable. It's very rare to play such an expensive game that you can tell so much money was spent on that just barely works. That said, though, it's really fun. Like clearly, I'm having a blast with it. I think they're really good at just making an extremely fun playground. You know, that's essentially all it is. Like the writing's not very good, the story's not very good. There's some fun stuff here and there, like, you know, and the art I think is actually pretty nice. I think it's a very pretty game in a lot of ways. Like there's a lot of love and work put into it, and I don't want to minimize that. But as far as like just a straight up video game like Fallout 4 1.0 would not be very good. But as far as just a playground that you can kind of twist into whatever you want it to be, it's a really fucking cool experience. And I don't think that's not a small thing, you know? Like making that playground, making that baseline that people can improve on is actually a pretty compelling proposition. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree. Like, I don't want to be like there's nothing good about Fallout, right? I do find, like, for one, obviously, from the conversation we've had, I think it's fucking tragically broken, right? Like, like you said, in an unforgivable way, where I think, you know, games like the Elder Scrolls games and stuff all have their jank and are broken in their own ways. Fallout 4 was far worse in a lot of ways as far as its unplayability and the way things just fell apart, right? It's not just enemies flying into the sky in that game. It's just like doors that don't work and elevators that don't work.
Yeah, you get caught in geometry a lot.
Yeah,
and you have to quick load. It's fucking wild. And again, this is after years and years of patches. This is like, yeah, that's what's so mind blowing to me. It's still broken even now. Yeah, and I'm playing the best possible version of it.
And I don't think they pay that off, right? You know, I think that you think it's somehow, it's just so complex, right? That there's no way it could have been solved for. But then the reality is that game is very straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Like there's really no complexity at all to its tier system or its perk system. The missions
it's not an RPG at all.
No, the missions are all locked in. There's no variation to missions. It's a very fixed game.
Yeah.
And I do think I agree with you. I think that there is fun to be had in farting around in that game. I just don't think there's that much fun to be had in farting around in that game, right? Like, I think you can do it for a while and look around, but I think the thing that really got to me is even when I tried to use the game in that way, I realized that there's just not much there. You know, like all the places I wanted to explore and look for things that were like interesting or exciting or outside of the norm were really just the exact same thing you find if you just follow the main path, right? Like, I didn't find a lot of like cool hidden items in the corners of the map, in some secret cave, some secret dungeon, you know what I mean? Where Elder Scrolls, I think, has tons of that, which I think it really pays off. A lot of that is cookie cutter as well, but there is some neat things you find that are off the main path. I felt like Fallout 4 didn't deliver much of that at all in the same way. And I think I think that's where it fell apart for me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I kind of disagree. I think it's the density of the environment. Like there's so much in there, and none of it is, or so far, none of it's like mind-blowingly incredible. Like I haven't played The Witcher 3 a lot, but from what I understand, part of the reason people love that game so much is like every quest is extraordinarily detailed and well thought out and really well written. And this isn't that, but there is something to be said about just the density of this very large, pretty world. And I think part of it too is, I've talked about this in the past, but my sort of propensity towards really just enjoying open world games. You know, like I just love the idea of walking around and seeing what's over the horizon. So even like a rougher open world I can still enjoy engaging with, but I don't know, there's so much everywhere. Like you'll be trying to get to a waypoint and there's 50 things along the way, and you're right that none of them are enormously compelling, but there's always something, and there's always like some fun to be had. And you know what it is really is you kind of just have to make your own fun, and they give you the tools to do that. And I don't know if that means it's a good game necessarily, but it's
Yeah, but what tools? I mean, other than
It's
like
it's a
bad
playground.
guns
It's a
and
really
other than bad guns and the same enemies, what tools do they really give you? You know what I mean? Like, because I think combat's terrible, and
I
think,
disagree. I like the combat.
and I think that's all you have is combat. Like, there's really not a lot of fun things to do outside of combat because, you know, like you said, it's not an RPG. Like, the skill system's gone. Like, you're not going to be the sneakiest sneaker or the coolest hacker. You're going to be a melee guy or a shooty guy, probably a shooty guy, and you know. And I think VATS is really clunky in that game. I don't think it works great unless you're like in the wide open space. You know,
Yeah.
I did not find the combat that compelling, and that's probably why I think it's a very bad game. Because, like you said, you can make your own fun, but if you don't enjoy taking a slap shot gun and fighting the same enemies over and over again, there's really not a lot for you in that game.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I disagree, but I totally see where you're coming from. Part of the reason I think I'm having so much fun is I did a super stealth build, like intentionally. That was sort of my goal. I found this kind of overpowered pistol that gives you more, like your VATS points recharge faster. So I have this silenced handgun, and if I sneak up on someone and use VATS or not, it does like 3 or 4 times the amount of damage it would normally do. So I will go into a place, sneak around, and if I can shoot someone in the head, it essentially one-shots everyone, no matter how powerful they are, roughly. And it's so fun. So I don't know. There is some flexibility there. I totally hear what you're saying, though. It's not like enormously complex, but I'm having a great deal of fun with it. And then when you do see all the mods that people... One thing I will say about Bethesda is they do a good job of making things very mod friendly, and that's not new, that's not unique to them, but they are pretty good about that, and that's not a small thing either. I think like giving people the power to make mods, whether it's because they fucked up and didn't do a good enough job in the first place, like they don't have to do that. And when you see how much you can transform this game into whatever you want it to be, I think they deserve some credit for that.
Yeah, I would give them more credit for that if the game functioned, right? Because it does seem like a lot of that is in place to fix things that they don't have the energy or the desire to fix themselves, right? Like,
yeah, totally. It's a two-sided coin for
yeah.
sure.
I mean, I do think it's great. I think games should have more mod support, and mod support should be more open, right?
Yeah, and they're very good about that.
Because some of the best games of all time have come from mods, right?
Yep.
Dota, League of Legends are mods. Counter-Strike,
I would
which
not
is
say those are the best games of all time, but
as far as audience, I mean, as far as audience, as far as impact in gaming, right?
Yeah,
like they
definitely
really created the genre, right? Like Counter-Strike, which is really made FPS is what they are, right? Like a mod, you know, a lot of modding has really created what we now have as like mainstream genres, right? So that's what I mean.
Like democratizing.
Yeah.
Development in an interesting way, and that can also be a crutch, like you said. It can be a way to be like, well, they'll fix it, so fuck them. And to your point, I totally agree. Like I said, the idea of playing Fallout 1.0, Fallout 4 1.0, I would not play it. Like it would not be fun.
Yeah,
I would not enjoy it.
The inventory
system there is sort of an indictment, you know.
Yeah, the inventory system's so unenjoyable, right? Like,
yeah, a lot of it's unenjoyable.
Like, yeah, you have to just like turn off weight limits in that game, right? You know what I mean? Because it's just like, who wants to deal with this in a game that's just not, I don't know.
It's almost like you have to build your own game in a way that is like, to your point, it doesn't do them any credit, but it also, in some ways, the fact that they allow you to do that does give them some credit. So I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about it, but at the end of the day, I'm playing it a lot and having a fucking blast with it. So that means something. You know, that's no small thing. Like if I'm having a huge amount of fun with the game, regardless of any context around it, then it's probably a pretty good game as far as entertainment.
And other psychopaths really enjoy yourselves with that game, and that is in itself a measure of value, right? Like,
totally.
Like that can't be diminished by my salty takes. The fact that people have fun playing the game, right?
Yeah.
And so. Right, like there's no argument against that. I can't be like, well, you shouldn't have fun.
Yeah, you better cut it out.
You better stop. Didn't you know it sucks? All right, like you can't be having.
No, totally. You never do that, but it's like I guess I mean more in my own mind. That's kind of the conversation I'm having with myself. Like,
yeah,
all this stuff sucks, but then it's like, well, I'm having so much fun playing it, so
And it
It's hard
fits,
to argue with that.
It fits like what you like to do in games, right?
Well,
And,
especially because I made it into what I want it to be. Right?
Yeah.
It's like you sculpt the gameplay experience into what you want, which is very cool. But the idea of playing it like Fallout 4 on a console, for example, I know there's mod support, but that's just insane to me, the idea of it. And that's not like an elitist thing. It's more just the idea of not being able to sculpt your experience and make it into what you want is very depressing.
Yeah.
That would be a very poor way to experience Fallout, I think.
The fact that anybody would play Fallout 4 when Elden Ring exists now, it boggles my mind.
Right. Yeah. If you're interested in like combat or whatever. Yeah. No, totally.
If you're interested in exploring, if you're interested in a beautiful world, interesting lore, like all of these check marks, I'm just like, Elden Ring is amazing and mysterious and a wonderful place to be in Fallout 4.
But it's so hard.
It's not even hard. It's not that hard.
It's harder than Fallout 4 when you use a bunch of mods.
Yeah, it's
But
hard.
no,
Yeah.
I totally hear you.
I mean, you
don't
could mod
disagree at
Elden
all.
Ring to be easy too. So
Yeah.
if you want to do that, you can go in and mod it and just run around. And it's just, I don't know. This isn't Elden Ring versus Fallout 4, obviously.
No, not
right?
at all.
It's,
But I don't disagree with you at all. That's kind of why it's been fun thinking about it, because it's really, I'm having these exact conversations in my own mind. I can hear you in my brain while I'm enjoying myself. You're just screaming at me. Stop it. Stop having fun, Leo.
yeah, I'd love to see you mod Elden Ring to be pretty like easy, like very like a undangerous, right? To like walk through, and just get your take on what you thought of what that world is, because
That would be interesting.
I feel like
actually.
I feel like Elden Ring might be the best game that's ever been made.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what a lot of people say. Yeah.
Like literally, I mean, it really is like, if as much as I love Breath of the Wild and may say that might have been the best game ever made, it really takes a lot of those lessons and like cranks them up to 11 and then just starts like piling them onto each other in a way that is just like mind-boggling. And and it's just incredible, and it's so mysterious. Like, you know, it's, you know, no spoilers, although I don't think anyone would care at this point if there were spoilers in that game. But like, there are points later in the game where you're like fighting through areas and you like walk into a room and you're like, I know this room, you know, and it's like, and it's just like, I don't know why I know it. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know, like, is it connected? Is it not? And then it's like, no, I'm not gonna, there's no answers. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to be like, it is the right room, or this is why you know it. It's just like, just crazy, right? You know, like, it's like,
Yeah,
it doesn't
totally.
have, like, it doesn't have to be like, here's some diatribe about like,
Well, yeah, it treats you with respect.
Yeah,
right?
here,
Like,
we'll
it treats you as an adult to be like, yeah, you can answer these questions if you want or not, whatever.
Sorry.
It's your game. Like, play it how you want to play.
I just love talking about Elden Ring. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's an interesting comparison of Fallout 4 because Fallout 4 is clearly worse in almost every way.
Every imaginable way.
But that said, I've played, I think, probably at this point, much more Fallout 4 than Elden Ring.
Yeah, that's a you problem, though.
Right, it is. Totally, I get that. But also, like, why?
You've also
Why am I doing that?
You've also played more of any Resident Evil game than any other
Yeah,
good game, right?
true.
Like, you played
Yeah,
more.
I guess I'm just not qualified to have an opinion at this point.
I don't think you're
the other game I did-
disqualified, but just you take it with a grain of salt. I think is
Yeah,
the
no, that's fair. There's some context required when you hear my opinion.
yeah.
The other game I played a little bit of is Silent Hill Origins.
See, this is what I'm talking about right here.
Right, and I won't talk about it a lot, but it's really not a good game at all. It
Yeah.
sucks. It's so not fun to play, and your point about leaving questions unanswered, like one of the cool things, this is not a unique observation to me, obviously, but like the first three Silent Hill, or four, the first four Silent Hill titles are very ambiguous and do a lot of what Miyazaki does with Dark Souls, where it's really open to interpretation, and there's a lot of value in that. And this game, as a prequel, really has to like explain a bunch of shit that did not need to be explained. So the story is not good, the writing's not very good. You know, there's some cool visual stuff. It's not totally without merit, but it's absolutely horrible to play. Like, it's so unpleasant to play. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have that much
but,
experience with those games, the Silent Hill games, because I told you the knife babies were too scary and I couldn't play it anymore.
Scary.
Yeah, they're too scary.
It's still scary, I will say.
It's got babies with knives, dude. Like,
yeah, and they like scream a really unintelligible, scary thing. Yeah, that game is fucking scary. The first Silent Hill is very scary.
yeah. So I wish I had more input, but Silent Hill was too much for me.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
The only other thing I want to talk about real quick, which is sort of out of the ordinary, and the reason I brought up comic books earlier, is I made the decision to read every X-Men comic.
That's wild.
Book. Yeah, so I'm starting in the 60s, and eventually I'll get to the 90s, which will be maybe a little more relevant to our conversation here. But yeah, it's been really fun. I'm only on like issue 5 or whatever, so I'm still early on in the process. But it's been really interesting reading comic books from the 60s. I'm not like a big comic book guy, so I thought this would be a fun way to sort of dip my toes into that, and I'll just stick with the mainline X-Men series so I don't get totally distracted by...
You know what's funny?
Enormous amount of spin-offs and everything.
You know what's funny about comic books? I think that's very cool. Because obviously in the 90s as well, I thought X-Men were really cool. And I did read some X-Men comics, but like when I was a kid, like, were there really kids out there that went to the comic book store every week and got the next issue of their favorite comic?
I think they would go to the grocery store.
Yeah, but I feel like the grocery store never had like... It was like a hodgepodge of what you would get. You know, I feel like I had comics as a kid, but it was like 2 or 3 issues of this and 2 or 3, and I just read them over and over again, and I would know all about like this one book and what happens in it, but I have no idea any context around it, right?
Totally. I was talking to Wes you remember Wes?
Yeah, I remember Wes. Yeah.
He knows a lot about comics, and I was talking to him earlier today about this very topic, and early on, they did that for a reason, right? Every comic was a totally self-contained arc, because for the exact reason you mentioned, like you couldn't expect people to go and get a comic book every week, because there's just really no reasonable way to do that.
And it was children. Like children don't have that kind of access, right?
Yeah, they don't have any money either. Yeah, and it's funny because when you read X-Men from the 60s, it's targeting, I assume, 13-year-old boys in the 60s. And it's really funny to read it with that in mind. Like, whoa, what a different time this was. And that was fucking 70 years ago. Or, I'm sorry, 60 years ago, I guess. Which is wild.
It is wild.
And it's fun. It's fun reading it. And I'm looking forward to reading through the decades and just seeing how it changes around, discussions about political issues and just the way the lens changes. I think it'll be an interesting view into like how America has changed through the perspective of the X-Men. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it is strange that comics are now like an adult thing. Like they're not for kids.
Yeah.
Right. Because kids could never afford it. Like I like comics, and I'll like get into a book every once in a while and try and read it all, right? And it's so expensive. Like,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
If you try and get into a comic that's been going for a little while, you're gonna have to buy like 5 of the what do they call them? Like the collections, right? The when they got like 6 magazines in one. Yeah. It looks like $15 each, and then each book's like $4 or whatever. And so it's like, you got $90 to get caught up. And you're like, I guess. Like, is a kid supposed to do this? Right? Like, oh,
yeah, man. It's true. The economy has totally shifted. And obviously I'm coming at it from the perspective of, I clicked a couple buttons and had every X-Men comic book ever written delivered to my computer hard drive, right? So it's like a very different way to experience it. It's almost like binging a TV show that was designed to be watched every week. You have to keep that in mind when you're going through it. But yeah, I totally agree. It's the economy of comic books is very interesting.
It really goes to show why Japanese comics are so popular, right? Because the idea that you could like just go to 7-Eleven and get the weekly comic book, right? And it would have the next iteration of like whatever the most popular comics were would all be contained in this, and you just always get the next episode as long as you bought the new book every week and you could share it with your friends or whatever, right? It's so much more compelling a process, and so much more like, you could convince your mom to spend $5 on you once a week or whatever to get you the next comic. But if you're like, hey, there's 4 comics I like, can you go to the comic book store and get me and spend $22 every
Yeah,
week?
She'd say fuck you,
Yeah,
and rightfully so.
Yeah, she'd be like, fuck you, right? Whereas if you're like, I'll mow the lawn every week if you buy me Weekly Shonen Jump, right? Then she'd be like, fine, like that's a deal, you know?
Yeah, sure, and you're reading. That's good.
Yeah. So it's comics are strange, man.
They are, and it's a world I'm not that familiar with. Like, you know, I've read a lot of, I read Watchmen, and I've dipped my toes in it for sure, and I know a lot about some of the lore behind it. But yeah, it's going to be a really fun undertaking. I'll keep you posted as I move through the decades.
Yeah, I feel like everyone in my era was passively familiar with comics in the same way, where they just have some, and then everyone watched the X-Men.
That's what I was about to say. The show is really, I think, also, which is another thing I never really engaged with because I didn't have a TV growing up. So it was like, that'll be fun to dip into. Yeah, even that, I know the theme song perfectly in my head. Even full episode, it just shows how ubiquitous they were.
Yeah, Rogue was so hot, bro. All right, let's get into our trailers today. Let's start with movies. We got a few movies, and then we got one big game. So I think it'll be exciting.
So we're starting with movies this time.
Yeah, I think it'll be exciting to tease that we got a big game.
All right.
And you don't know. You don't see these ahead of time, so.
No, I don't. It's all new to me.
All right, let's get into the movies. Oh, here we go.
Oh my God, Spice Girls.
Here we go.
My name's Emily.
Alicia Silverstone was the hottest person that ever existed when I was a teenager.
Yeah, she's pretty good. I like her outfit.
Yeah.
Once,
I like that font too.
So good.
What did I do this time? Forget that birthday.
And then there was a little problem I had at school.
Oh shit.
But
Whoa.
I think
She
I
murdered a
finally
lot of
found
people.
the perfect plan.
A little problem at school. I killed so many people. Whoa.
I know it was a desperate cry for love, and I thought I had everything covered. Everything except for Mr. Grand Theft Auto.
Not a big problem. I opened the trunk. Bang! I find the old man in the car. I'm not gonna hurt you, all right?
Hey. Benicio.
Hey, Benicio. So young. I'm just so used to him being an old, scary guy.
Yeah, I know. Damn, you look great though.
He did look great.
Holy shit.
This isn't No Country for Old Men, right?
Yeah.
Before I was kidnapped,
I once stole a Ferrari with a Chihuahua in the back. He made less noise than you do. This guy she was with, did she seem intimidated by him? No, I don't think
Ooh.
so. This could be one of Emily's games. Don't think I'm part of your kidnapping prank.
oops,
Columbia Pictures presents
it's been a pretty rough day.
I got a Twinkie in the car. It's all yours if you get me out of this mess.
a movie about car thefts. So why are they still together?
Something else.
Maybe she likes him. Kidnapping.
Damn, this movie looks good.
Yeah, it does. Honestly.
It's got great music,
Rituals of dating.
Yeah.
great
Looks fun.
90s stars.
Yeah.
I love Benicio del Toro. I love Alicia
Yeah.
Silverstone. Yeah, super hot people.
Excess baggage.
Yeah, it looks like fun.
Really deep collars on shirts.
Oh yeah.
So sexy.
What was it called?
Excess baggage.
Interesting. Yeah, I would definitely watch that. That looks great. I don't know if you're seeing this, but I'm getting very extreme lag on the trailers.
No, I'm not. I don't know. I'll do something, I guess.
Yeah, it's fine.
Long live Kroll.
This fucking guy.
Kevin Sorbo?
Yeah.
But in his search for a queen, Panara, as pure as virgin snow.
As pure as virgin snow.
Join me, and the earth shall be our empire.
By the powers of darkness.
The dog knows a few tricks, that's all.
Dang.
Now Kull alone has the strength
I want to watch this too.
to take a stand against evil.
What are you doing? I can't take a man.
I'm glad someone's taking a stand against evil finally. Finally.
This is definitely like the kind of dumb movie that was very formative for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
I love every stupid like adventure movie that ever existed.
Yeah.
If there's dragons, if there's sword fighting, if there's sexy witch queens, if there's Kevin Sorbo, like I'm watching it. You know, like you're not gonna stop me.
Yeah.
Are you
Coming soon to video cassette. That's good.
It seems like you're getting caught up a little bit. Audio's a little out of sync for you.
It's quite out of sync, yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna restart the Discord stream.
Yeah, no worries. I totally hear what you're saying about like things being, adventure movies being fun. That looks fun. That would be fun to have on in the background.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially like, obviously, it's so dated now, right? I think that's the problem with those kinds of movies is they don't hold up at all, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I was 15, I would fucking be all about it, right? But now there's so much better options, right? It's not like there's a lot of value to it, but
But it has its charms, certainly.
if only I was 15 again. It's a little better. I guess you don't know. No one's talking.
Ooh, there's no sound now.
Really?
Yeah, that's okay though. We got Larry Fishburne.
Organized crime, America's most dangerous men began a war.
Whoa. There's no sound, but this looks pretty good.
Hold on, let me try and get you sound. A lot of technical issues these days.
Yeah, we gotta migrate over to Twitch. Not that will help with this, but
That'll definitely help. Resolution.
I fucking love Lawrence Fishburne. He's so good.
Stream settings.
I like this. I like this as a thumbnail.
That's a good freeze frame, actually.
Yeah.
Let me hit the. Sorry, everybody.
That's all good. It's a great freeze frame, so you can just analyze the composition of the shot. We got some clothes in the background. It says K1 in the back. Dry. Suspenders. Do you think we should bring suspenders back?
I wish. Like, as someone that's a little fat, suspenders are by far
Real
the
game
most
changer.
the most functional way to keep your pants up. And the fact that they're out of fashion is
Oh, there we go.
yeah,
like
the
that
fact that
sound.
they're out of fashion really is a bummer.
Well, man, someone's got to bring them back. It could be you.
I've tried to wear them a couple of times. People always be talking, you know, like I just don't
Yeah.
want anyone's comments. Also, like, what's really weird is you would think that, like, for suits would be the place to, like, slide in some suspenders. But suits never come with suspender buttons. And when I try and get them tailored in, the tailor never gets it. So I'm like, is this not a thing? Because this should definitely be a thing.
Yeah, they're like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you do this?
Does Andy
Hell
Garcia
yeah.
have, like, a weird eye in this?
I don't know. Bumpy Johnson. That's a great name.
That's what they called me in college. See, look, like his right eye's baggy.
Yeah. Maybe that's how the person was.
That should never have been crossed.
If that's an acting choice, I'm impressed. See, you see what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, Lucky Luciano is a real person, wasn't it? So maybe that's how his eye looked.
Wow, I'm impressed. That's a real Lucky Luciano, lazy eye.
Whoa. This movie looks cool, too.
They're all dead because they underestimated him. United Artists Pictures presents Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, he got stabbed in the face.
Oh. That'll do it.
This is an article about Boardwalk Empire, but I'm assuming it's the same Lucky Luciano in both fictions.
I would think so.
Hoodlum.
Yeah, me
Ooh, that
too.
looks good. But honestly, I'd watch anything with Lawrence Fishburne. He's just a fucking treasure.
Yeah, all-star cast. Yeah, all-star cast.
Oh. Explosive!
Great films.
One of this year's great films.
It's the story of two men.
I think I have the opposite opinion of John Travolta that I do Lawrence Fishburne.
No interest, huh?
I don't like it.
What about Face Off?
Sean Penn, Robin Wright Penn.
Yeah, I haven't seen Face Off in a... I love Robin Wright, though.
I swear to God, I'm gonna shoot somebody. We came for dinner. It's not that kind of an evening.
Rated R.
That's
That
the
was
whole.
terrible.
That's the whole trailer.
I don't like John Travolta.
I think that's it. I think that's back to SS baggage. Do you want to watch the trailer again for this one?
Hi,
Kind of.
I'm Emily. You would not believe.
Yeah, we don't have to watch it again.
Yeah,
but
we're not gonna watch it again.
that was a good selection of trailers, man. That
Yeah.
was a good week in movies. I'd be fucking pumped if I saw those trailers while I was in the theater. I'd be like, oh my god, I gotta come.
Well, it's funny. I feel like third week of the month is always like the big releases.
It's when the good shit's coming.
Well, because like last week we had a ton of movies, a ton of big movies, and then the end of the month and the beginning of the month turned into kind of this like whatever else is there. But yeah, that was a good selection of kind of smaller in a sense movies, right? But still big movies. All right, you ready for games?
Oh yeah, I'm
We only got
excited.
one, but you're gonna.
Sometimes
like
that's all
it.
you need.
You're gonna like it.
I hope it's Elden Ring.
I wish.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this. Well, God, what a good game this is.
I mean, maybe the game of the '90s.
Yeah, as far as like people's like imprint on their consciousness, this and Final Fantasy VII are probably like the two that like made that everyone remembers.
Yeah, it had like the biggest impact in culture, right?
God, this game's so fucking cool. And the music fucking slaps so hard.
Good
still
music.
to this day.
I love how bad the Nintendo 64 was.
Yeah. Totally. It was not good. And that's why the games that were so good for it are even more
Yeah,
Just-
impressive, right?
just running on absolute trash hardware.
What does
all look
98%
horrible.
mean?
98% out of 100, I assume.
It just says 98%. Total
Total
64.
64. Yeah, they loved it.
That's the review, though? 98%?
I kind of respect that. They're like, yeah, you don't want to read what I have to think about it. Here's the number. Buy it.
Yeah.
And also, it's like you're already going to buy it. It's GoldenEye.
Yeah. Four players.
4 players and 4 frames per second.
Dude, this game ran so bad.
Yeah,
It's amazing what our tolerance was for frame rate.
it is. Yeah, it's really interesting going back to N64 games specifically because, like, the single player is okay. It's probably between 20 and 30. But the
Yeah.
multiplayer, yeah, it bogs down to like 6 or 7 frames per second sometimes.
The single player does fall apart at times, though.
Oh, no, for sure. That's what I mean. Even at its best, it's like 25 frames, maybe.
What was your favorite mission in GoldenEye?
Oh, man, I have a lot to say about GoldenEye, but my favorite mission easily is Facility, the second one, where you start off in the vent and you look down and you can immediately shoot the guy in the bathroom who's taking a shit, and you just drop down there, and that whole level is so cool and so interesting, and there's so many like different sight lines, and once you learn how the AI works, you can just manipulate it in really fun ways.
I'm looking
that
at the
level.
actual mission names here. Was this one? Oh, okay. I'm like, this doesn't look right, but it's the location first, and then all the missions
think
are listed
it's-
after.
I think we talked about this recently because I played GoldenEye not too long ago on original hardware, and we played multiplayer, and it was so fun.
Yeah, I thought the train
it's-
mission was so cool
It is cool. There's a lot of cool stuff.
because you're
Even,
doing the
like, from
laser,
a-
your laser and the locks off with
yeah,
your
with the watch, and there's a countdown.
Yeah.
Honestly, even the mission design really is very interesting. Like every level is very different. I mean,
Yeah.
it all plays the same. But then you had the big outdoor levels, which are really fun to visit now because they're just so simple.
Yeah, the first time you do Cradle, it's like, how is this world so
yeah.
large? Right? Like, how
Yeah.
am I in the sky? Right? Like,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the music in Cradle is so sick.
yeah, it's so sick. What a good game.
I love that game. I was thinking the other day about how I'm pretty sure if you Google GoldenEye, like right now, the game will come up before the movie. Like I'm sure Wikipedia will come up, but like the vast majority of the articles I'd imagine will be about the game. And I think it's interesting that the game has had such a much more profound effect on people from our generation than the movie it was based on did. That's not a bad movie.
Oh,
like,
excuse me. I didn't mute for that one. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, if you Google GoldenEye trailer, that doesn't happen. But I think I do agree. If you just Google GoldenEye, it probably would be the game.
Yeah, like if you talk to people about when you say GoldenEye, no one's thinking of the, even though it's not a bad movie.
No, I liked it.
Everyone thinks about the game because it was so huge. It's really hard to overstate how fucking cool and fun and important that game was to everyone.
Yeah, the multiplayer was just the biggest thing. You know, like I can't think of another time multiplayer game like captured everyone at the same time in that same way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's how kids feel about like Fortnite now, but
Yeah, probably.
but yeah, I guess I didn't talk about what I did. I played a lot of Fortnite this week. But,
oh, did you?
Because
No
they have
build mode.
Because they have Goku now,
Oh yeah, they did.
so you can
bring
do
Goku.
Kamehamehas. But yeah, maybe that's how kids feel about Fortnite, and maybe that's why it's such a big thing for them, right? Because everyone played GoldenEye when you were a kid, right? Like everyone knew what it was. Everyone was down to come over and play multiplayer. Like it was ubiquitous, right?
And I also think it's important to remember that, like, as far as the progression of first-person shooters on consoles, it was not the first one by any stretch of the imagination. It really, I think, like, where a first-person shooter felt totally designed for the console.
And it was the
before
first,
Halo.
yeah, it was the first big success story, right, for a first-person shooter on console, where people were really like, you know, I mean, it was one of the hugest games of the '90s, right? So
Yeah.
it was like, it really was a proof of concept that people want to sit in a room together and play multiplayer first-person
And shoot
shooters.
each other in the face.
Yeah, and yeah, there wouldn't be Halo without GoldenEye.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And it's also, I find it so funny that it came out like 2 years after the movie.
Yeah,
You know, like it was so random and licensed at the time. And I think, I don't know if this is still true, but we're notorious for being shitty, right? Like anything based on a movie was almost always super phoned in and a cash grab. So to have a game based on a James Bond movie from like 2 years prior,
Yeah.
the expectations were so low. And for it to just come and be so unique and rock so fucking hard, I think really also added to its sort of mystique and why people think so fondly of it.
Yeah, what a game, you know, like what a moment in like you know, like a touch point in like our childhood, right? Is
Yeah.
a game like GoldenEye. I think everyone can remember that period of their life. Like I feel like everyone has like, oh, I remember we played at this person's. You don't even remember your friend's name, but you remember being at their house playing and like what their living room looked like
And which controller you were using.
yeah, and you had the red controller that didn't really work that well,
Yep.
and
Because those controllers were an abomination.
yeah, and fucking Randy kept using proximity mines and and
Fucking
fuck
choosing
Randy.
on job.
Yeah, odd job proximity mining all the spawn points. You're just like
Fucking Randy, man.
Yeah, fucking
What a
Randy.
dick.
This kid just doesn't like having fun. He doesn't want anyone to have fun, I guess.
I remember I played so much GoldenEye and unlocked all the cheats except one. The final one I could never get was the train cheat, where you have to do it on the hardest setting in a very short amount of time.
Yeah,
But yeah, like I said before, I think it's actually really fun to revisit if you can handle how terrible it is technically and how ugly it is. The multiplayer is so really fun and very unique. There's no other game that feels like GoldenEye. It's not like Halo. It's not like any modern game. It has a totally different feel. It's super unique and really fun if you can kind of accept it on its own terms. So yeah,
it's
I'd
not
recommend
really
revisiting it if you can.
it's not really like a controlled shooter, right? It's more of like a movement
No.
game, right? Where it's
Exactly.
like,
It's about finding the other person first. It's not about even like the shooting necessarily, because you're not really aiming, because it's all auto locked, because it's a early console first person shooter.
Yeah.
So it's really much more about finding your opponent and them not seeing you before you see them. That's the real crux of the multiplayer, and it's really fun and unique.
it is fun. It's a great game.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, if you're out there and you're listening, you got any GoldenEye memories, feel free to share them. Or if you hate GoldenEye, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
You don't think
I will-
anyone hates GoldenEye? I think there's plenty of people that are weird.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah,
love
no, I'm
Fallout,
shocked.
so you love Fallout 4. So it's
I
like,
don't love Fallout. I have very mixed feelings about
I
it.
mean,
But yeah,
you've
no,
waxed poetically about Fallout for like 20 minutes today. So it's clear that there's like a certain,
yeah, my opinion's not to be trusted.
clearly.
The last thing I'll say about GoldenEye is if you are going to play it, if you download an Xbox 360 emulator and you find the Xbox 360 version, which is out there for free because it was never released, so you're not even pirating, that's the way to play it, because it is in HD and it plays exactly the same, except it supports dual sticks. So if you do want to run through the single player, I highly recommend doing it that way if you can.
Good tip. Although I never tried that one. I think I really should give it a shot.
It's awesome.
Right? 'Cause-
It's one of those classic things of it's like it plays and looks the way you remember it, and then when you play on original hardware, you're like, oh Jesus Christ. We've come a long way.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything? That's it we got today. The only release is GoldenEye.
What more do you need?
What more do you need? Obviously, we all want to play GoldenEye. That's the game pick for the week. What's your movie pick for the week, Leo?
Yeah, it's hard. I think the Alicia Silverstone one looked great.
Excess Baggage?
Yeah, it looked like a fun, cool movie that I would really enjoy.
It's such a hard choice between Excess Baggage and Kull the Conqueror.
Yeah. Well, and the Lawrence Fishburne one looked good too. Hoodlum.
This is my time to pick. You should have said that when it was your time to pick.
Yeah, so I was I was reminding you that it.
I know what I know. I put the trailers up, Leo. Okay, I know what's there. So torn.
Well, make a pros and cons list.
Okay. Excess Baggage, Alicia Silverstone, Kull the Conqueror,
Big pro.
Tia Carrera. Okay.
Oh yeah, that was her. That's right.
Excess Baggage, Benicio del Toro,
Yeah.
Kull the Conqueror, Kevin Sorbo. That's definitely a point for Excess Baggage.
Yeah, I agree.
Excess Baggage, Christopher Walken.
Oh yeah.
Kull the Conqueror. I don't even know. Thomas Ian Griffith. All right.
Big draw.
Yeah, we're
draw in
going
the 90s.
Excess Baggage. Your list method really paid off because
there you go.
it was pretty clear once I did that. But cool. Is there anything else you want to get into before we get out of here, Leo? Before we send these people home?
No, I think I got to go read some X-Men and maybe see if I can stream Excess Baggage.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find it somewhere. Probably on YouTube. I notice a lot of these old movies when I'm looking for the trailer, I find the full movie. So I'm just saying, it's probably
Yeah, they're
there.
like, "You want to buy it?" You're like, "No."
Not buy it. It's usually just some dude named Ted that uploaded it, and it's like
Thank God for Ted.
it's got 73 views or something, right? Like,
Yeah, it's sort of flying under the radar.
yeah, no one gives a shit. Like when I sent you Everything Everywhere All at Once, no one cares as long as people aren't downloading it, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you guys so much. We love you. Soup Heads Unite. Stand up. We're all in on soup all the time on this podcast. Cool. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.